Noah's heart pounded as he stood frozen in the rain-soaked alley, the neon lights of Seattle's Capitol Hill flickering above him. At 25, he thought he'd buried the shadows of his childhood. But tonight, a single text from an unknown number had ripped them open. "I saw you at the cafe. Noah. You look just like her." His mother's face flashed in his mind, her laugh, her warmth, and the betrayal that followed when her best friend, Carla, shattered his trust at 13. Growing up in a modest Tacoma suburb, Noah had been a quiet kid, his world revolving around his mother, Elise, and her vibrant friend Carla, whom he called Mom as a second mother. Carla was the cool aunt who brought him comic books and snuck him extra cookies, her laughter filling their small house. But one summer night, when Elise was working late, Carla's touch lingered too long, her words too personal, her presence too close in the dimly lit living room. Noah, barely a teenager, felt his stomach twist with fear and confusion. He never told his mother. He couldn't. Instead, he stopped calling Carla Mom, withdrew into silence, and built walls around his heart. Now, 12 years later, Noah was a graphic designer, carving out a life in Seattle's eclectic art scene. He'd moved here to escape the ghosts of Tacoma, to embrace his identity as a gay man, though he'd only come out to a few close friends. The text message, likely from Carla, stirred a storm of memories he'd tried to forget. He shoved his phone into his pocket, the rain masking the tears he refused to acknowledge, and headed toward the cafe where he was meeting Ethan, the one person who made him feel safe. Ethan Carter, with his easy smile and sharp wit, was a barista and aspiring musician who'd stumbled into Noah's life 6 months ago. They'd met at a local open mic night, where Ethan's soulful guitar chords had drawn Noah in like a moth to a flame. Ethan, openly gay and unapologetically himself, was everything Noah wasn't: confident, unguarded, and free. Tonight, as Noah pushed open the cafe door, Ethan's hazel eyes met his, and the chaos in Noah's chest quieted for a moment. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Ethan said, sliding a latte across the counter. His blonde hair caught the warm cafe light, and his gray sweater hugged his lean frame. Noah forced a smile, settling into a chair. "Just a rough day," he mumbled, avoiding the truth. Ethan raised an eyebrow, but didn't press, his presence a steady anchor. They talked about music, art, and the upcoming Pride Festival, but Noah's mind kept drifting to that text. Who had seen him, and why now? As the night wore on, Ethan reached for Noah's hand, his touch gentle but firm. "You don't have to tell me what's wrong," he said softly, "but I'm here when you're ready." Noah's throat tightened. He wanted to confess everything: the pain, the fear, the shame that had kept him silent for so long. But the words stayed locked inside, just as they had when he was 13. Instead, he squeezed Ethan's hand, grateful for the warmth that grounded him. The next morning, Noah woke to another text: "Meet me at Pike Place tomorrow. We need to talk." See, his stomach churned. Carla. He hadn't seen her in years, not since he'd left Tacoma after high school. Why was she reaching out now? Part of him wanted to ignore her, to delete the message and pretend she didn't exist. But another part, the part that still craved answers, urged him to go. He needed to know why she'd crossed that line all those years ago, why she'd broken the trust of a child who'd loved her like family. Noah spent the day distracted, his sketches for a client's logo unfinished on his tablet. He met Ethan for lunch at a food truck near the waterfront, the salty breeze mingling with the scent of fried dumplings. Ethan sensed Noah's unease and suggested a walk through Olympic Sculpture Park. As they strolled past towering metal sculptures, Ethan shared stories of his own coming out, how his conservative family in Idaho had struggled but eventually embraced him. Noah envied Ethan's openness, his ability to face pain head-on. "I'm not as brave as you," Noah admitted, staring at the Puget Sound. Ethan stopped, turning to face him. "You're braver than you think. Noah, you're here, living your truth, even if it's quiet." That night, Noah lay awake, wrestling with his decision. Meeting Carla meant confronting a wound he'd never fully healed. But avoiding her meant letting her shadow linger over his life. By dawn, he'd made up his mind. He'd go to Pike Place, not for her, but for himself, to reclaim the voice he'd silenced as a child. Pike Place Market buzzed with life, vendors shouting, tourists snapping photos, the air thick with the scent of fresh fish and flowers. Noah stood near the iconic fish-throwing stall, his heart racing as he scanned the crowd for Carla. At 25, he was no longer the scrawny kid she'd known, but the sight of her familiar auburn hair sent a shiver down his spine. She approached, older now, her face lined with years but still carrying that confident smile. "Noah," she said warmly, as if nothing had ever happened. "You've grown up." He clenched his fists, fighting the urge to walk away. "Why are you here?" "Carla." His voice was steady, but inside, he was 13 again, trapped in that living room. She tilted her head, her expression softening. "I missed you. Your mom told me you're in Seattle now, doing great things." Noah's jaw tightened. His mother had died 2 years ago, cancer stealing her too soon, and Carla's casual mention of her felt like a violation. "You don't get to talk about her like that," he snapped. Carla's smile faltered, but she pressed on, suggesting they grab coffee. Reluctantly, Noah agreed, needing answers more than he needed to run. They settled at a small cafe overlooking the market, the hum of conversation around them a stark contrast to the tension at their table. "I know you stopped calling me Mom," Carla said after a sip of her latte. "I always wondered why." Noah's breath caught. She didn't know, or she was pretending not to. Either way, her ignorance or denial infuriated him. "I was a kid," he said, his voice low but sharp. "You crossed a line. You made me feel wrong." The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered, surprising even himself. Carla's eyes widened, her face paling. "Noah, I never meant to hurt you. I thought we were just close, like family." Her voice trembled, but Noah wasn't sure if it was guilt or defensiveness. He wanted to believe she hadn't meant harm, but the memory of her hand on his shoulder, her whispered words, burned too deeply. He left the cafe abruptly, his mind a storm of anger and grief. Back at his apartment, he called Ethan, his voice shaking as he recounted the meeting. Ethan listened without interrupting, his calm presence a lifeline. "You faced her," Ethan said when Noah finished. "That's huge. You don't have to forgive her, but you took back some of your power today." Noah nodded, though Ethan couldn't see it, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, he felt the weight of his silence lifting, even if just a little. Over the next few weeks, Noah threw himself into his work, designing posters for a local Pride event. Ethan was a constant support, inviting him to band rehearsals and late-night walks through Fremont. Their relationship deepened. Each moment with Ethan, his laughter, his gentle teasing, his unwavering acceptance, chipping away at Noah's walls. One night, at a rooftop bar overlooking the city, Ethan kissed him under a canopy of string lights, and Noah felt something he hadn't in years: hope. But Carla's reappearance lingered like a bruise. She texted again, apologizing vaguely and asking to meet. Noah ignored her, but the messages kept coming, each one a reminder of the past he couldn't fully escape. He confided in his friend Mia, a vibrant trans woman who ran the Pride event. Over tacos at a Capitol Hill taqueria, Mia listened, her dark eyes fierce with empathy. "You don't owe her anything," she said, "but you owe yourself peace. Maybe that means confronting her again, or maybe it means letting her go." Noah wrestled with Mia's words. He wanted peace, but he also wanted justice, not just for himself, but for the kid he'd been, who'd lost his voice to fear. He started journaling, pouring his memories onto the page, each word a step toward healing. Ethan encouraged him, reading his entries and sharing his own struggles with family rejection. Their bond grew stronger, rooted in shared vulnerability and quiet strength. One evening, as they walked through Volunteer Park, Ethan stopped by a cherry blossom tree, its petals falling like soft snow. "I'm falling for you, Noah," he said, his voice steady but nervous. Noah's heart swelled, but fear crept in too. Could he love someone fully when he was still haunted by his past? He took Ethan's hand, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm trying to be someone who can love you back." The Pride Festival was a kaleidoscope of color and sound, with rainbow flags fluttering above Capitol Hill streets. Noah stood at his booth, showcasing his designs, his heart lighter amidst the celebration. Ethan performed on a nearby stage, his guitar strumming a soulful melody that drew a crowd. Noah watched, captivated by Ethan's confidence, his voice weaving stories of love and resilience. For a moment, Noah felt free, as if the weight of his past had no place here. But then he saw her, Carla, standing at the edge of the crowd, her eyes fixed on him. Panic surged, but he forced himself to stay calm. This was his space, his community, and she didn't belong here. He approached her, his voice firm. "You need to stop contacting me." I said what I needed to say. Carla's face crumpled, but she nodded. "I'm sorry, Noah. I didn't realize I just wanted to make things right." Her words felt hollow, and Noah walked away, his heart pounding, but his resolve stronger than ever. Back at the booth, Mia hugged him tightly. "You're a badass," she whispered, and Noah laughed, the sound surprising him. He felt lighter, as if confronting Carla had loosened another knot in his chest. When Ethan finished his set, he joined Noah, sweaty and beaming. "You okay?" he asked, sensing the shift in Noah's mood. Noah nodded, pulling Ethan close. "Better than okay," he said, and meant it. As summer faded into fall, Noah and Ethan's relationship blossomed. They spent weekends exploring Seattle's hidden gems, record stores in Ballard, hiking trails in the Cascades, quiet nights cooking pasta in Noah's tiny apartment. Ethan's presence was a balm, soothing the raw edges of Noah's heart. But the past wasn't done with him yet. One evening, while sorting through old boxes, Noah found a photo of himself, his mother, and Carla smiling at a 4th of July picnic. The image hit him like a punch, stirring memories of love and loss. He showed the photo to Ethan, his voice breaking as he shared the good memories, Carla teaching him to ride a bike, his mother's proud smile. She was family, Noah said, until she wasn't. Ethan held him, letting him cry, and Noah realized he wasn't just grieving Carla's betrayal, but his mother's absence. The question she'd never answered because he'd never asked. He'd hidden his pain from her, just as he'd hidden his identity, and now it was too late. Determined to honor his mother's memory, Noah visited her grave in Tacoma, a small headstone under a willow tree. He knelt, tracing her name with his finger. "I'm gay, Mom," he whispered, the words spilling out after years of silence. "And I'm okay." The wind rustled the leaves, and Noah felt a quiet peace, as if she'd heard him. He drove back to Seattle, the photo tucked in his pocket, a reminder of the love he'd lost and the love he was building. Ethan was waiting at the apartment, a homemade lasagna cooling on the counter. "You're back," he said, his smile soft. Noah kissed him, pouring his gratitude into the moment. "I'm here," he said, and for the first time, he felt like he truly was. Winter settled over Seattle, blanketing the city in a crisp chill. Noah and Ethan's relationship deepened, their lives intertwining like the ivy on Noah's apartment building. They celebrated their first holiday season together, decorating a tiny Christmas tree and exchanging gifts. Ethan gave Noah a leather-bound sketchbook. Noah gave Ethan a custom guitar strap with his initials. But beneath the joy, Noah's past lingered, a quiet ache that surfaced in moments of stillness. One snowy evening, Noah received a letter, not a text, but an actual handwritten note from Carla. She tracked down his address, and the sight of her familiar script made his stomach lurch. The letter was an apology, detailed and raw, admitting she'd been inappropriate, driven by her own loneliness after a divorce. She didn't ask for forgiveness, only understanding, and promised to respect his boundaries. Noah read it 3 times, torn between anger and pity. He showed it to Ethan, who read it silently, then set it down. "What do you need from this?" Ethan asked. Noah didn't know. He burned the letter in his fireplace, watching the flames consume the words. But it didn't erase the questions. Had Carla truly not understood the impact of her actions? Could he ever see her as anything but the person who'd hurt him? He journaled late into the night, grappling with the complexity of human mistakes, his own included. He'd spent years hiding his truth, not just from Carla, but from himself, and that silence had cost him. Spring brought new opportunities. Noah landed a contract designing murals for a community center, a project that let him pour his heart into his art. Ethan's band booked their first major gig, and Noah was there in the front row, cheering as Ethan's voice filled the venue. Their lives were building towards something beautiful, but Noah knew he couldn't move forward fully until he faced the last piece of his past, telling his truth to those who mattered. He organized a dinner with Mia and a few close friends, a cozy gathering in his apartment. Over wine and homemade chili, Noah shared his story, not just Carla's betrayal, but his journey as a gay man, the fear that had kept him silent, and the love that was helping him heal. His friends listened, their support unwavering, and Mia raised a glass. To Noah, she said, and to living out loud. Noah's eyes stung with tears, but they were tears of relief, of finally being seen. Ethan stayed after the others left, helping Noah clean up. As they washed dishes side by side, Ethan bumped his shoulder playfully. "I'm proud of you," he said. Noah smiled, leaning into him. "I'm proud of me too." The community center mural became Noah's sanctuary, a sprawling canvas of color and hope. He painted figures holding hands, their faces undefined but their unity clear, a tribute to the community that had embraced him. Ethan often visited, bringing coffee and quiet encouragement, his presence a reminder that Noah wasn't alone. But as the mural neared completion, Noah felt a new restlessness. He'd confronted Carla, shared his truth with friends. But one piece remained, understanding why he'd stayed silent so long. He started therapy, a decision spurred by Ethan's gentle nudging. His therapist, Dr. Lynn, was a kind woman with a sharp mind, guiding Noah through the layers of his pain. They talked about Carla, about his mother, about the shame that had rooted itself in his childhood. "Silence was your shield, Dr. Lynn said one session. "But it's okay to lower it now." Noah nodded, realizing he'd been protecting himself from a world he no longer needed to fear. One sunny afternoon, Noah and Ethan took a ferry to Bainbridge Island, the water sparkling under a clear sky. They sat on the deck, wrapped in blankets, sharing a thermos of hot chocolate. Noah opened up about therapy, about the guilt he felt for never telling his mother about Carla or his identity. "I wish I'd trusted her," he said, his voice thick. Ethan took his hand, his touch steady. "She loved you, Noah. She'd be proud of who you are now." The ferry ride became a turning point. Noah decided to write a letter, not to Carla, but to his mother, a letter he'd never sent but needed to write. He poured his heart onto the page, telling her about his life, his love for Ethan, his journey to self-acceptance. He sealed it in an envelope and tucked it into his sketchbook, a private act of closure. When he showed Ethan the letter, Ethan's eyes glistened. "You're letting her in," he said. "That's beautiful." As summer approached, Noah and Ethan planned a trip to San Francisco for Pride, a chance to celebrate their love in a new city. They walked hand in hand through the Castro, rainbow flags waving above them, and Noah felt a freedom he'd never known. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living, fully and unapologetically. The San Francisco Pride Parade was a whirlwind of joy, with music pulsing through the streets and thousands celebrating love in all its forms. Noah and Ethan danced under a shower of confetti, their laughter mingling with the crowd's cheers. Noah wore a rainbow pin on his jacket, a small but bold declaration of who he was. For the first time, he felt no fear, only pride, not just in his identity, but in the journey that had brought him here. Back in Seattle, Noah finished the mural, unveiling it at a community center event. The crowd applauded, and Ethan squeezed his hand, whispering, "This is you, Noah. All of you." The mural, with its vibrant figures and message of unity, was a testament to Noah's healing, a way to give back to the community that had held him up. Mia, ever the organizer, threw a party afterward, and Noah found himself surrounded by friends, their love a shield against the past. One quiet evening, Noah sat with Ethan in Volunteer Park, the same bench where they'd shared their first deep moment months ago. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, and Noah felt a peace he'd never known. He turned to Ethan, his heart full. "I love you," he said, the words clear and unafraid. Ethan's smile was radiant. "I love you too, Noah." Always, reflecting on his journey, Noah realized that healing wasn't about erasing the past, but about building a future where it no longer defined him. Carla's actions had wounded him, but they didn't own him. His mother's love, though cut short, had shaped him. And Ethan's love, steady and true, had shown him what it meant to be whole. He'd come out in silence, but now he was living out loud, his voice stronger with every step. As they walked home, hand in hand, Noah thought of the boy who'd stopped calling Carla Mom. That boy had carried a heavy silence, but he'd also carried resilience, a spark that had grown into the man Noah was today. The pain of his childhood would always be a part of him, but so would the love, the courage, and the community that had lifted him up. In the end, Noah hadn't just survived, he'd thrived. And that was the most meaningful victory of all. This story delivers a powerful narrative of trauma, healing, and love, with a meaningful conclusion that celebrates resilience and community. Each part builds on Noah's journey, weaving together drama, romance, and humanistic values, all set against the vibrant backdrop of Seattle and beyond.